Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to chat a little bit about love. it's been done, yes. These days, like the past while, I've been learning a lot about what love is not, and I'm like a hopeless romantic, and I believe in wholesome love that is really conditional. And I try to be that, and I try to give that, with people I encounter or people that crosses my path, as hopefully we all do. But I definitely knew what love was. But lately, God's been putting me through a stage where I'm learning what it's not. And it's not fun. I've not been having fun. But I'm gonna chat a little bit about that anyway. So the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, right? And he doesn't do that. It doesn't come to kill you physically or destroy you physically or steal all your possessions, right? He comes and he steals your peace, right? Which then destroys your body and health because you're constantly anxious and fearful. And then finally, he kills your spirit because you are so confused that you keep asking God why, and you feel like God is far from you. You feel like God is like not answering you and he's being silent. But I think that verse has been has been taken so literal in time, like physically kill, physically steal, physically destroy. It's not that. So I mean, as I said, love has always been this really intense, really like massive, life altering thing for me. I don't think that there is an emotion. Actually, I don't think there's anything on earth that is more intense or more prevalent than love. Love is the one thing that's universal. It doesn't matter where you are, who you are, where you come from. It doesn't matter. Even if you are the most evil person in this world, inside of you there is still love because it's innately so. We are born with the need for love immediately. We need to be held, we need to be touched, right? And when we are born, we don't know about violence or fear or anxiety, panic, racism, hate. We don't know those emotions or those thoughts. We are taught how to fear. We are taught how to hate. We are taught how to feel panic or when to feel panic, right? So all of these things are things that we are taught after birth. But when we are born, we are essentially just love and that's it, right? So, I mean, to me, the topic and the debate and the notion that there are all these different love categories and there are 5 love languages, like, I don't fully agree. I want to tell you why. So, a person's love, well, love in general is as unique as your fingerprint, right? There's only one fingerprint and there's only one you. And I feel like people miss that part. No two people love the same because, once again, you decide how you want to love or you are taught how to love by your parents, your siblings, your friends. And as you grow, you find that, as you go to high school or whatever, like, then you always evolving in how you love, because you are always experiencing people and how they love, right? So, but love is universal and emotions are universal. So there's no person on earth that doesn't love, that doesn't have anger, that doesn't have resent, resentment, hate, patience, kindness, compassion, empathy, whatever it is. But it is a universal thing. Emotions are universal. So not all of us are like pathological liars, and not all of us are serial killers, and not all of us are like whatever. But essentially we are the same in that category. How you express that love is so important and so vital, because it is how you decide to express that love that can result in bondage, right? Or confusion or abuse, selfishness, deceit, etc., etc. So, this being the result and the consequence for the people you love, right? Not intentionally, but purely because love turns toxic at times. So, the premise that I hold is that every emotion is birthed off of another emotion. And still God says in his word, like, it's a big long book, right? But he still points out love as being the most important thing, right? I mean, he could have, like, there could have been 10 most important things. And he does mention all the other things that's good and that is right. But he picks love as the most important thing. And I mean, like, even Tina said, what's love got to do with it, right? And she called it a second-hand emotion. Why would it be a second-hand emotion? It's a second-hand emotion because the first-hand, right, emotion that you experience would be with your mother and your father and your siblings. That would be from birth, and as you grow up and go through puberty, etc. So meaning your first-hand love was with your family and your parents, and then when you start dating, etc., it becomes a second-hand emotion. So because it's handed down, do you understand? So your parents will teach you to love not exactly the way that their parents taught them, but more or less. So this is like, it's something that's handed down and handed down and handed down, and every generation it's handed down differently. Because in every generation, people will want to change something, that they felt was a mistake by their parents, and they will try to fix that and they'll try to better it to some extent. So, what does love do, and what's love got to do? So, I know that the topics are tired and they've been done, and it's a tirelessly like vortex, or it's just it always comes up, right? So I'm going to ask you to entertain me for a minute here. So we never have enough like philosophical or revelation extension, right, of the topic. It's always very straightforward. So people generally have warped ideas of love because of everything that's going on in the world and the violence and things that are portrayed as love that is not love at all. And that's normally with deceit. and manipulation. But there are things in the world that are placed on TV or clips or YouTube recordings or lives or whatever, TikTok, whatever, will like send out an idea of love that's not love at all. Like it doesn't even come close. But youngsters, like teenagers and younger, they actually like pick up on it. So then they are thrown off the path of their first hand love, right? The first generation love. So, I mean, I'm like terrible. I love, like I love, right? And I don't love for something to to get. I just love, like I just love people. I love, like I'm, I don't know, fell on my head when I was small or something. So I'm one of those people that normally irritate people, right? Because love is so integral to who I am. And I mean, I feel like all my life I've had nothing to offer anyone except me, except my heart, like who I am. And so, two of the things that I've placed extreme emphasis on in my life is that my word, right? That's what I say I do. It's my word is my honor. And I'm not at like a 100% fulfillment rate at that, but I've really gone like in another direction, or not or not do what I said I would do, right? And then my heart, because I mean, loving each other can't be selective, right? I mean, the New Testament's very clear about that. You can't select who you feel like you want to love, right? So the New Testament's packed with erasing that gap between Jew and Gentile, right? Teaching us that we are all one in Christ. So if we, for instance, look at Galatians 3, right? Galatians 3 verse 26 to 29, and it says, so in Christ Jesus, you are all children of God through faith. For all of you who were baptized in Christ have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. So love has no exclusions. God doesn't have favorites, right? So it has no possibility to favor one above another, although we do, as we are who we are as people. But love doesn't have a net worth, and it doesn't recognize classes of people, and it doesn't see color in terms of ethnicity, or by what you have or who you know, right? So we're not supposed to be loving from our own denomination or social class or age group or ethnic group or nations, right? Our world is broken and fragmented. That's a fact. The world is broken and fragmented. You can look at it from any way you want. So if the word of God is to have any meaning in this world, it is to love, and it's to love others, right? All kinds of others. Doesn't matter who, all kinds of others, right? If you read Psalm 136, you will see it speak of God's unfailing love, and it's unfailing for everyone. Luke 7 verse 13 will talk about God's great compassion, and John 13 verse 1 to 38 will speak of selfless love, right? That's what we always like try to get to, is that selfless love. So I think that if there's anything that raises above everything else in the Bible, it will be love, right? Everybody knows Corinthians 13, verse 13, that says that these three things remain, and it's faith, hope, and love. But if you have love, right, it's easy to build hope, and it's even easier to establish faith. So not only does God state in the Bible that love is the greatest, right? He didn't just say it. He didn't just say it and it was written and it was printed. No. He literally walked the talk. And how did he do that? Because he left, Jesus left everything he had, and what he had, and where he was, and what he was doing in holy places, and being praised and honored, and angels just singing how holy he is. And he came to earth as flesh, a body, right? So he left being God and he came to earth as a human being, because I think God knew after so many tries, that, hey, mankind is just not gonna pipe up. Because, okay, so after Noah, he said he'd never destroy the world again. But from the start to where Noah happens, the people were evil and foolish, right? And then God destroys the world and they start over. And not long after, people start with their wayward ways. So God sent his son, which is an extension of himself, because it's the 3-in-1. But if you ever sat and truly thought about this, it's such a it's so easy for people to say that Jesus died on the cross, God sent Jesus, whatever. But have you ever sat and truly thought about it? I'm not going to get caught in a theological discussion, right? That's not what this is about. But if you take a minute and you think about the selflessness, the selflessness of that act, and the day that Jesus was taken captive, the night before, he prayed to God and he said to God, God, please let this cup pass from me. And that didn't happen. And still, Jesus didn't fight being taken captive. He never pushed against being taken to the cross. He did it willingly. After being lashed, after being beaten to an unrecognizable state, he was in no state to even carry the cross, but he did. And if you think about the fact that he never fought, he never objected, he was Jesus. He could have gotten himself out of it if he really wanted to. But to him, you and I were more important. So he didn't fight it. He didn't put up a fight. He was not he was so calm, when he spoke during that time. That's a kind of selflessness that you can't even begin to imagine it. Oh, it gives me a knot in my stomach whenever I think about it. He died purely so that we can go to bed at night or wake up in the morning and be like, God, please forgive me my thoughts or deeds, acted upon, not acted upon, whatever I've done that's against you. You can ask for forgiveness, because the promise is everlasting life. So we're all going for, to live life right, to hear God's voice correctly, and not to mistake the enemy's voice or the enemy's thoughts or ideas for God's. Um, I mean, Jesus was so humble, and he was so full of love. So, I mean, mankind was so integrally fleshy and in sin. God knew that under the law, the majority will never make it into the kingdom of God. I think probably no one would have, right? So, I mean, they had Yom Kippur, which is that they had once a year, where you go and you ask forgiveness. And then they had a scapegoat, a literal, actual scapegoat. And it's funny because in today's life, right, if you look at the opposite of love, it's normally because, like, it's normally got a scapegoat attached to it. So, through flesh and being born of a woman, the second, like, Jesus was born into this world of a woman, he knew why he was here. Like, as the second he could think, like independent thought, God, Jesus knew why he came down, because he wanted to, right? And Jesus did that knowing that under the law, no bride. And so it wasn't meant to be that way, because the fall of the angels had already happened. So Satan was already out and about. And so Jesus needed or needs his bride, right? And he was humiliated in the worst ways. I mean, not only was he humiliated in the worst ways when he died, but he was born into humility, right? And that's a huge thing. So, I mean, when Jesus was a man, he experienced every single emotion that we experience today. He was angry, he was irritated, he was sarcastic quite a bit. He was happy, he was sad, he was tempted, he felt absolute. He was in desperation, he cried out to his Father. His friends wasn't there for him when he needed them the most, right? I mean, they just fell asleep 3 times, right? He experienced injustice and cruelty. But he was courageous and he was determined to save us, right? He was brave to the extent that no one can fathom even. So, I mean, I think like it was such a hectic thing on that cross, and what went through his mind, you know, having just been through what he had been through. But he decided when his last breath was, because in that moment, he gave himself back to God. And so he didn't die from his wounds. He died because it was the moment that he put himself back, or that he gave himself back to God. So that to me is mind-blowing, right? He made us, but even he understood how weak we are. And like, he himself had been tempted by the devil, and he said to Satan, like, do you seriously think that whatever you're tempting me with will add unto me? Because it wouldn't, right? I mean, he came from heaven and lived a flesh, carnal life. So I think that it's very important to remember that when we were yet sinners, he forgave us. So love, right, scientifically, it is proven fact, right, that you are made to love at birth. That's all you know. You don't know other behavior. We don't have a spirit of darkness in us when we are born, right? It's just taught to us over time. So recently, I had a bit of a revelation about love, right? And I mean, I can unilaterally confirm, right? The worst kind of love, right? But we'll get to that in a bit. So, one of the core things that creep in and destroys love is pride. Pride is like a bitter pill to swallow. And once you have pride, once pride has taken hold of you, it is insanely difficult to return to humility, right? Because you will do something that in your mind is humble, or like you being humble. And even your act of humility comes from pride, or is done with pride. And only God creates certain circumstances and situations where, as you think you are up here, God comes and he knocks you into humility with no pride. So suddenly, like the revelation of pride smacks the hell out of you, and you're like, when did this happen? How did this happen? Right? And I'm talking from experience, guys. Like, I'm not talking you, I'm talking like me, us, everyone, right? And I think a lot of the time when you are prideful, God uses people to bring you back down, which is sad, and it normally breaks your heart. I mean, for me, it was a good old rejection that did it. And it was like, I can call it like 7 days of ugly cry, right? Crying. I just felt so exposed, like my spirit felt exposed. The second that pride left me, or like the second I moved out from under pride, there was such an exposure of my spirit. And the deepest part of my understanding of love, like, suddenly made no sense, right? I felt like the love that I had cultivated has, or is, or did leave me. And I was left broken, more confused than a single spaghetti between between a bucket of pasta. It was bad, right? So people have these ways that they want to say how they love you, and I don't know what it means. So people come with like, oh, I love you in my own way. What? What is that? What's your own way? God created one love. What's your way? Oh, I love you as a friend. Are you serious? Oh, I love you as a brother, a sister, a mother. Whatever. Right? I can't. So that to me it blows my mind, because the actual foundation of our love is 100% the same. And that is the love that God gave us. When we were born into love, right? And the love that God created for man to experience, that's love, right? It doesn't matter what you think you want to say about how or why or when. And it doesn't matter what you want to actually add at the end of it. The point is that to some extent you're a little bit in denial, because where does 5 love languages come from? What are you talking about? Like, it's a strange phenomenon for me, right? So, I mean, let me share something, because what's all of this? What does it mean if you don't have a personal story to share? So, um, I'm a firm supporter of learning while living, right? Especially with big topics, as the one like this, right? And it really doesn't matter what your status and how much money you have and how much you don't have and what you need and what your preferences are, and love is universal. So you can be a psychopath, you can be disabled, you can be beauty queen, you can be like it just doesn't bear any importance, right? And you're probably asking why not? Well, because there's not supposed to be any compartmentalized, isolated way to love. It just it doesn't exist. God didn't say, love your second neighbor from you, right? This way. But then compartmentalize your neighbor next to you into loving them as, I don't know, a hot dog or whatever. So there's supposed to be one love, without terms and without condition. And the context for that is truly just that love is and always will be such an integral, active part of me. And it should be in you as well. Because without love, you cannot do anything. Without love, and I mean love fully, without harboring a grudge or anger or resentment, contempt, whatever it is for anyone else, you will evolve spiritually. But as long as you're holding on to anything where someone wronged you and you refuse to let go, you cannot evolve spiritually. And you can let that go and you can start evolving spiritually, and then suddenly you grab hold of it again and you like stutter back 2-3 steps. And God will always be talking to you about it if it's there. I think that it's the one consistent thing in this world that should be going from strength to strength and from understanding to understanding. And it's one of the topics, right, that I'm always ready set go to discuss, regardless of who brings it up. Like, it is what it is for me. So I've always felt like I experience love differently because I haven't really, well, I've met one person before that understood love the way that I did, right? So I believe that not only did God give me a heart that loves deeply, but He's given everyone a heart that loves deeply, expresses transparently, and gives without measure, right? It's just the decision to do that. And I mean, I don't know if it's a burden or it's great, but when it comes to love, right, a lot of times people like me are misunderstood, right? Because of the fact that you show love so openly and express it freely, and you're transparent about it, and it doesn't have any measure, and it's a very deep kind of love. Everyone thinks you're in love with them. Not only that, but like people take it differently, right? And it's I'm very, very often I'm misunderstood. Okay. Um I have to say I've lost much, but I've gained more in terms of understanding the true premise of love, right? So people like people guard and protect themselves to such an extent that sometimes that guard it ruins relationships, it ruins friendships, it dead. It completely kills it, because when you are in a relational setting, whether it's a friend or whether it's a love interest, whether it's just someone you know at church or wherever, at the office, whatever, if, let's say it's me and I've got this friend or whatever, and I keep exposing like who I am, because I'm not going to change for you, sorry, right? And that person is fully guarded against any exposure of love, right? And even though it's not God's will for us in today's life, like, I think that it's God's will still for us to be able to love in that way. But we also only love in that way to an extent. And even though that extent is ridiculous, I mean, we'll carry on and hold on and try and try and try. But there is a point, right, that we have to walk away. I mean, I've been broken to the point where I felt like actual excruciating pain in my heart. Like, I felt like I was dying. And that's the thing, is like, I didn't get up from that and then loved less anyone. I got up and I did introspection, and I cultivated even a better love than the love that just broke me, because I want to love the way that God wants us to love, and I want to love the way, like, I want to have a heart like Jesus for people. And I still give everything openly and transparently. And even though I end up like totally devastated normally, right? Every time I get the opportunity to cultivate and grow a better love, a fuller love, a stronger love, a more complete love, right? Than that one that just broke me. So I've literally lived to grow in love my whole life, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of you that also has. I'm sure there's more than I even think, right? So, and then finally God showed me the wisdom of his love. I was so flabbergasted. It was like, I mean, if we think of love off the bat, there are so many different categories to love, right? That you can name. I mean, there's the 5 love languages. There's the I love you my own way. There's I love you like a friend. I love you like a sister or a brother. Then there's sexual love. There's deep friendship. There's playful love. There's love for everyone. There's long-standing love, self-love, family love, obsessive love, intimacy, passion, commitment, loyal love, identify love. Identify love, right? Think about it. So anything that is where the person with you, it becomes something that has a sensuality and a romantic codependency, right? Love is an empty love, right? I mean, I have to say, right? So love is a powerful urge to be connected to a person, right? That brings new aspects to the relationship, such as emotional, physical, intimate, passionate desires like that you've not experienced before. And when someone like that comes into your life and they fill that need, you learn a little bit more about a different kind of love, right? Which it's not different, it's just a different add on, if you will, right? So when you feel that true love, like you want to take care of that person and vice versa, and you'll do anything to protect them, right? But what is love if not unconditional? So then you have all these expressions like, I love you to the moon and back. I love you to infinity. I love you like all the stars, and the moon loves the night. Sorry. I love you like the sun loves the summer. I love you like the butterflies in the gardens, the rainbow over the blue sky, and the greeneries in the meadows. Wait. And then it's just the same ones that I did earlier. So now the question is, right? When was the word like autonomous with love? Like. Love, like, as in Like. After love is always like. I love you like. I love you like. I love you like. I don't know when that happened. Like, when did love and like become autonomous? It never did. So, why do we feel this urge to compare our love to something or another? So, what you're basically doing is you are literally telling someone that you love them either less or more than someone else. I don't think that it's supposed to be that way, right? And then when you act in a way that, when you act out the less, and you're not even being like, you're not even trying to be sort of undercover about it, you're just straightforward being that person. And you don't even think about the actions that you're doing. You don't even see the wrong in it. And how that makes people feel. So the only conclusion I can draw here is that love cultivates, right, an autonomous fear in us. Fear that someone may interpret that our love is, our love for them, is something that it's not, or it's more, or it's less, or it means something different to them. It's so backward though. So think about it. Why is it so easy for the world to hate? Let's think about this quickly. Why is it so easy to hate? Why is it easy to be angry? Why is it easy to have contempt? Why is it easy to be frustrated? And why is it easy to be irritated? Why is it easy to give someone silent treatment or shut them out? Why is it easy to slander and to gossip, insult and break people down? That's easy for everyone, right? And there's nothing to consider before picking a fight, staying angry, right? It takes nothing for you to reject someone, okay? To turn your back and to walk away, and you don't even look, don't even stop a second to take one last look at that, but you just get going, right? And you feel nothing about it. You just carry on with your life like nothing ever happened. And you don't even think about the consequence that your action may have, not only in that person, but also in their lives. And what your action meant for them in terms of their lives. You don't care, you just walk out. So why is it so easy for countries to wage war? For dictators to starve their nations? Why? And this is the big hoo-ha, right? That it came to, like, I realized. It's because none of these negative emotions have been sub-categorized. You're hearing me? Like, none of it has been sub-categorized. You'll never say, I hate you like a brother, or you frustrate me to the moon and back, right? So if God speaks of love, full stop, then love should be love, right? His intent was, is, and always will be love. Full stop. So, no, you're not gonna act as though you in love with everyone. That's not what I'm saying. But the reason it's so hard for us to just love, no like, no but, no nothing, right? If you are married, your wife integrally knows, right, that the love you have for her is because you guys cultivated a love that is intimate, that is personal, that is committed, that is loyal, right? But you don't have to say, I love you like my wife, I love you. You can just still say, I love you, because she knows. And I hope you know, there's no one else in their lives that the love that they feel is for, if I can say it that way. But it's so easy for this world to just go astray. It's so easy for this world to actually miss the mark. Purely because there's no subcategory for anger, there's no subcategory for any of it. So, I don't know, like, hate. Is there a medium hate, and then there's like a small hate, and is there a large hate? Or is there a hate like? I don't think I've ever heard that. In war, why would we want to rather try and discuss and find common ground when hate and anger is so easy? We don't want to struggle to find love. We'd rather let's just do it. No consideration of how many people dies, no consideration of how people suffer, and just a real, true, hateful act. And so, if you want to justify the 5 love languages, or why it's necessary to ensure that someone knows how much less than complete godly love you love them, it's just easier to fight and hurt others and hold grudges and walk away and abandon, reject, lie, destroying each other is easier than trying to communicate peace. I mean, who wants to communicate peace? So, I mean, there's no consideration for innocence, and how many innocents die because of this impatient being. The only reason you don't want to communicate peace is because you're impatient to get your way. So many lives with war has had no choice in the matter. They've never had a choice. The leaders of the country decide it's wartime, right? And before they get themselves, there are bombs and missiles raining down on them like hellfire. They never had a voice. They never had a decision. They didn't have a choice. And I feel like war should be between world leaders, and it should not even include the people of the nation. But they're too selfish. I mean, the fact that they wage a war instead of negotiating peace shows you how selfish they are. And then the same with surviving this war. They're selfish, right? So I don't care how many people die as long as I'm fine. And why do we make love so complicated? Why is love such a complicated feeling, right? I mean, God sent Jesus to die because he loved us. Not he loved us to the moon and back, and not he loved us like a brother, and not like he loved us like anything. There's no like there. Jesus loved us so much, right? And he didn't define love in any category. There was no category. It wasn't with a level and a category and a this and a that. He loved his people, the Jews. And then he extended that, and he loved and he included the Gentile into the gospel, right? Into the possibility of being saved and forgiven, right? Into being able to fulfill a purpose and to one day hear, well done, good and faithful servant. He never expressed a selfish love, ever. I mean, Paul writes to the churches on the topic, right? And in each of the letters to the churches, like, is love, right? So, I mean, you can start in Genesis if you'd like, and you can go all the way right through to, Revelation is a different story, but even in Revelation, his love remains the same. So it's got the same consistency, the same definition, the same singularity, the same focus. It's not split. And I'll never understand love categories. I don't get it. I think it's the categories that we have felt such a need to create because we're so scared someone thinks that we love them more or it means something different, right? Then if that happens, that's because you are acting in a way that's giving them that idea. You are acting in a way that leads them to think that. So I think it's good to take stock to determine what capacity one has to love, more so to allow yourself to be loved without category. Give yourself permission to be loved without any category, right? What capacity is left to be inspired to hope? If you can love fully, then your capacity to be inspired to hope is, I want to say, 99.9%. So I guess that this is a topic that can be spoken about for the rest of time. But I mean, love is universal, and these different perceptions of it, right? But some love knows no bounds, and others are full of fake, false pretentiousness. And you need discernment, right? Especially if you're going to be one that's going to love fully. You don't want to surround yourself with the enemy that kills, steals, and destroys either. You don't go and, yes, love your neighbor as yourself. You don't have to be right in the middle of someone that is not got your best intentions, right? That doesn't have a godly love. You don't have to actually get it. No, let me go out and love everyone. No. You have a godly love in you towards everyone, even if they like an asshole. Doesn't matter. Have that brotherly love. No. That neighborly love, right? So that love thy neighbor as thyself. Even in the word it says like in terms of foolish people and your enemy and etc. Someone hits you on the one side, like turn the other and all of that. I'm not saying go and look for something that will destroy you. Go there and go and seek someone that can destroy you. That's not what I'm saying, right? I mean, every day people make others believe that they love them. They do, right? In word, but in deed, they don't love them at all. And this is what I've been learning is if someone tells you that they love you, when all you've done with everything that you've had, right, is that you have committed to support them through any and everything. But around every turn, there was always someone better, always someone more sought after. And I mean, hearing I love you was great, and it made me feel good. And you know, I loved fully. Like I was willing to do anything for that person. And that's it's painful, because when words are so sincere but actions are opposite, you don't really know what to do. And to isolate yourself isn't the answer, because that's also one of my go-tos, right? But hate is universal as well. And it's that hate is that in word and in deed across the globe. You won't find hate, right? You won't find the word hate without the deed not corresponding. But love you will, right? So the question then remains, what is your love? And what is the love that you were given? God speaks to us regarding who we are on a daily basis, because at the end of the day, you have your carnal nature and you have your spiritual nature, and essentially what we want to do is we want to align both, right? You want your carnal nature to work with your spiritual nature, right, in line, in order for you to fulfill the purpose and the destiny that God has ordained for you. But how can you hear what God is saying? How can you like hear the instruction and go towards the actual God ordained direction? Because you know that Satan, like, he reveals himself as an angel of light, and Satan can also sound like God. And that's why our discernment is so important. And you have to you really have to exercise your discernment as much as you possibly can. Because you don't want to hear it and then go there, and then like a week in, you're like, what the heck? Or a year in, and you're so deep in, you don't know how to get out. So be careful, and don't not go around like running rampant, loving everyone. I'm just making the point that the wars in the world is like out of control, because hate is so easy. Wokeness in America's, I don't have a word, but it's because indifference doesn't have a subcategory. And the debate, it's not a debate, it's an argument, right? What is a woman? What is wrong with you? Like, people are starving, people are dying of hunger, people are being abused, people have nowhere to live, they've got nothing to eat, and you are like wasting your time to try and give an answer to something that God has already given in the Word, right? I will never understand fully. So, and then just the last thing I want to add is that, you know, you have your foundation love, your God love, right? And when you love God, when you truly love God, and you love the way that He expects you, right, then you also build God confidence. So you get more secure in yourself. But when you meet someone and you add on to love, your hub, right, and you add commitment, loyalty, intimacy, kindness, honesty to that love, now you experience still the same love, not defined different, still the same love, right? But you experience that love, right? It's defined as, and it feels like marriage, right? Love, you add trust, loyalty, dependability, support, communication, time allocated, and then your love, you experience your love as a friendship, right? But it doesn't matter what you add to create the different experiences of love, right? The foundation is the same love in all of them. And that's the only love there is. And it's the love of God. Laters.